And welcome to another episode of the Black Diamond Podcast. This is episode 29 with the one and only Chris Hecker and Jerry Durney. Unless you've been living under a rock for the past hour and a half, as you now know, Juan Soto is a New York Met.
For everybody, man.
15 years, $765 million. I thought I was going to be crying on the podcast, but it looks like Jerry is the one that's crying
For
tears of
everybody,
joy.
man. This is for St. Lucie. This is for Flushing. This is for Frankie. Anything is possible. Anything is possible.
All right, Kevin Garnett. don't make me bring up Honey Nut Cheerios now, bro.
Good evening, folks.
I'm trying my best to be real fucking cool about this.
They say act like you've been there before. I have not. I have not been here.
That's fair. That's fair. You have not been here. You know, this is kind of uncharted territory for us too. I don't know how to act. I mean, we've been outbidded for free agents before, but never by you guys.
No, this is what I mean by like we haven't been here. Like, and Chris and I were talking before we started. You know, like when the Lindor trade happened, like yes, that was a big deal. It was Cohen's first acquisition, but it made sense at the time.
It made all the sense in the world.
Yeah, okay. There's this great player. He's a year away from free agency. Cleveland aren't going to pay him, and we have an owner who will now, and he's looking to make a splash move. All of the dots connected. Like, okay, this is something they should do. Everybody wanted Juan Soto. The Yankees were in on him. The Dodgers were in on him. All the heavy.
Apparently, he was on the phone with the Pirates too.
He said his services were available to everybody. And yeah, and we've signed guys from the Yankees before. Like this isn't new ground in that sense. Like we've signed Curtis Granderson. Like we've done that. But to get someone who like Juan Soto is on a no doubt Hall of Fame track and someone that they clearly wanted, no, we haven't done this. Take out the fact of it being the richest contract in the history of sports. Like forget all that. Just in a baseball sense. No, I don't know what this feels like.
Well, I mean, I'm not happy, but I guess I'm happy for you in that sense that, you know, you get to you landed a big fish. You landed the big fish, possibly the biggest fish. I mean, aside from Shohei Ohtani last year, who had no interest in the smoke that comes with being, on the East Coast. There's really this is like the biggest fish really either of our teams really could have landed. So, for you guys to get him at 26 years old, you lock him up for the rest of his career. There's so it's a 15-year, $765 million deal. But there's an opt-out clause after the 5th year where if Soto opts out, the Mets would have to give him a $4 million AAV raise where it would go from $51 million a year to $55. And then that $765 million contract is actually more like a $795 million contract or $800 million contract. So it's like it just seems like on this one, it really does seem like, you got to give Steve Cohen credit that he was not going to be denied. Obviously, money, obviously he's made it known that, he's willing to spend. That money's really not like an object or really ain't shit to him. He's got enough money to wipe his ass with, 2 ways until Sunday. So, for him to do this. And I mean, I'm honestly a little surprised that the Yankees stayed in it as long as they did. Because I mean, our final offer, I think, was 16 years, $760 million, which I don't know what that was all about. Like lowering the AAV does not seem like a good strategy if you're trying to get someone. Especially of that caliber, when like that it's, like, I'm not saying that, money was like the only thing that Soto cared about, but it was obviously the number one priority was to get paid. And I'm not knocking him. Like,
No.
good for you. It's because at first I was like, okay, if we were offering 700, when I first heard we were offering 760 and the Mets offered 765, I was like, what's an extra 5 million at that point? Like, what's an extra $5 to $10 million at that point? Like, you've already gone way above your threshold. If you're Hal Steinbrenner, you've already gone like way outside of like what you have like publicly and privately expressed, like what you're comfortable in spending for a player. So to be like to not be willing to go the extra mile. I mean, who knows? Maybe he wanted to be a Met at the end of the day. It's hard to really say. I'm sure, it's hard to really say or really know, like, because I feel like I'm sure, like, when he, goes to his introductory presser after he passes the physical and the ink dries and all that, and it's officially official, and, you could get your Juan Soto jerseys on the Mets team store. That'll probably cost like $300 because they're gonna have to make that money back somehow.
Look, fine with it.
I can tell you at least one person won't be buying one.
And like I said, if I have to start buying Celsius by the pound, I'll do it. This is how we got to do it. Fine.
I've added Celsius. Not that I was ever going to drink it, but I think I've added it to my list of boycotted products. What is it again? It's like an energy drink or like a soda.
It's like either that or a seltzer because I'm not really a guy.
It's like an alt soda of some sort.
That I know. It's it's a fitness. Celsius Holdings is an American company that produces a range of fitness and energy beverages. So there you go.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never really been an energy drink guy. I guess I am now.
Yeah. Well, as someone who drank energy drinks growing up, I can say that they're terrible for you, and they'll make you pee weird colors. So enjoy that. Have fun. Also, fuck McDonald's. Fuck Grimace. Have fun getting E. coli if you eat there.
Chris, would it be all right if I sent you the Candelita box set for Christmas? Yeah.
I mean, I do need a new. I don't have a fireplace in my house yet, so that could be put to good use.
Someone did rightly point out, I saw this on the timeline because the last 2 hours have been a blur for me, but someone quote tweet, it was one of the beat reporters announcing the Iglesias minor league deal. I think it was this week, this time last year. And someone said, if this doesn't happen, tonight does not happen. And I know people say, oh, well, yeah, $760 million. In my heart of hearts, I don't believe Juan Soto would leave a team that he helped lead to the World Series if this team has a season identical to 2023 that they put up. I don't think, even for all that money, he's not leaving somewhere where he was this close to another ring to go play for a 77-win team. So I think the fact that this team did what they did, and the money, of course, and I don't say that as being cynical. Like, none of us have ever had $760 million put in our face. None of us would know how we would behave with that. But yeah, the Mets having this season lining up perfectly in concert with this could not have timed it better. And it's amazing to think.
Imagine being offered $750 million of anything, let alone $750 million to play baseball. And then on top of that, you're offered $750 million to play baseball, and then he's like, "Nah, make it more." And then they made it more.
Yeah, they're like, all right.
How's another 15 sound?
Imagine getting $760 million at 26 years old. It would not go well for me. I know. I say that at 38, it would not go well for me. I know that.
Right. Yeah. I couldn't imagine it going well for me either. I won I won $200 on a raffle ticket one time at like a block party when I was like 12, and been chasing that high ever since.
You win
But
money for a fantasy league. Do you know what that does to your ego? I couldn't imagine like getting $750 million
yeah,
to hit a ball.
yeah,
Again, and I don't say this as a slight. Like, hey, if
no,
they'll give it to you, you take it. Like that's
no, and he's worth every penny. Like I'm
oh
not
yeah.
even gonna cope and be like, oh, that's too much money anyway. Like, we're better off without him. Like, no, that's not true. We wanted to keep him. Obviously, we wanted to keep him bad enough that we made it interesting. But I just don't think Cohen was going to be denied. I think Cohen would have went to 800 if he had to. I think he will maybe gone to 850 or 900 if he had to. Although, I think that Hal was very clearly like at his point of like, all right, like I don't think Hal wanted to go above 700, to be honest. Like I think once it hit 700, he probably wanted to be out of it. But I think that, all the public pressure and just like, the understanding of how important like Juan Soto is to a team, I think kept him in it. And then, I think, I wonder if when they offered him the 16 years, 760, if he even like after he got the Mets offer, I wonder if he even went back or if he was just like, all right, like, fuck it. Like, this is done. But
That would be. I mean, I know these things aren't possible to do, because of laws and whatever. But the way that HBO has those 24/7s for the build up to like a heavyweight title fight that they're airing, or they've done those with the Winter Classic and the like. Boy, would I love to. And you would have to do it like secretly, like they couldn't know because guys would play up for the camera and all that. But boy, would I love to see a 24/7 of all that. Like, what was the breaking point? What was the tipping point for Soto to be like, okay, this is what I want to do? Or what was the point where was it the Yankees going, all right, fine, like, we can't do this?
All
the way around, I'm fascinated.
Yeah, I'm definitely fascinated like by how this whole thing went down. And obviously it got to a point, I think, this weekend where, I think we were all kind of ready for it to be over. Like I'll say I'm glad that it happened today rather than like tomorrow. Like that kind of makes a big difference in my life, to be honest.
Listen, you get that passive notification at work and it's like a shotgun blast to the chest. Like,
I knew it was coming. Yeah. And like I knew it was coming too. And like I got to the point where I turned on passive notifications because I was like, all right, like, yeah, everyone's starting to say like this is coming to an end tonight. And the whole time I thought like, yeah, like if the Yankees are going this far, then clearly like they're serious about keeping him, and like I don't think they're going to let it become a problem. And I think that and I thought that the whole effect of playing with Judge and being on the Yankees and getting close to going to a World Series, getting as close as he has to his second ring, like since he won his first ring. I thought that combined with a very competitive monetary offer would have kept him in the Bronx, but it did seem very clear, like specifically tonight, like once the reports started coming out that like this is going to come to an end tonight, and then you started seeing reports of like where the bidding was at and how it was like the Yankees offer, both teams are over $750 million, but like Cohen could go to 800, and like at that point he'd be on an island by himself. So, once like I started seeing those tweets, I was kind of like, okay, like this is starting to look a little grim, and like I was starting to kind of come to terms with, like I was like just starting to come to terms with the reality, like okay, like we might lose Juan Soto. He might actually go to the Mets. I mean, you knew it was a possibility the whole time. I mean, we've been hearing it, like, I know that we've been hearing it from Mets fans, like, since the day we traded for him, that, he was, renting in the Bronx and he's going to buy in Queens, which obviously ended up being true. But, you know, it really set in over the past couple of hours, and I'm kind of glad that didn't drag out, and that it was just kind of like over pretty quickly. Like once the pictures started to become a little more clear, I'm glad that it was just kind of like over quickly at that point, and that it didn't drag out like another 3 to 12 hours.
In all
So
honesty, I thought this was going to go into January because we've seen it a lot in the past 6-7 years where the free agent news moves like molasses. And I
yeah,
figured if he is the big fish of big fish, that and then his agent being who he is, and I don't even say that as shade, but he's going to extract the most value from this. Yeah, why wouldn't they drag that out? And that's generally how that's gone. So to me, I was kind of not that we talked about this in the last episode. Like I haven't been refreshing my timeline every 5 minutes because it's like you're gonna go insane. And I also was looking at it from the perspective of we're probably not going to get anything before New Year's. But to me, the fact that we're done over 2
December 8th.
weeks before Christmas,
Yeah.
This is how it used to work in the old days. Like when we were in high school, this was how free agency moved. We haven't seen that in a while.
Yeah. This is kind of how it should be. And I think Soto, he seems like a pretty smart guy, and he definitely has his I think he definitely has his his process and how he prepares, and to be the level of baseball player that he is. And I'm sure that he saw like what happened to, granted it was a lot of it this year with the delayed signings was pitchers, and you saw the slow starts that pitchers got off to from waiting till like you were into spring training to sign. So I do think Soto wanted to get it over with pretty I think he wanted to get it over with in a pretty timely manner, where he could have a full spring training to prepare, and have like enough time to get acclimated to his new home, which obviously is only a few miles away from his old home. So I do think that
if you're looking for a place, you're committed here for 15 years now. If you need to look for a place that you want to have in the spring down in St. Lucie County, listen, I know you had some spring trainings here in Vieira before you moved. Holler at your boy. I can help you out. I can give you the landscape of St. Lucie County. I can tell you where to go and where not to go. Get at me.
Yeah, Juan Soto, if you're listening, hit Jerry up. He'll
5%
get you he'll get you your he'll get you your winter home / spring training home. Obviously you were listening to the last episode and you decided that you valued Jerry's love and respect more than mine, which honestly probably the correct decision. But all I gotta say is we'll see you. We're gonna see you a few times a year, and you could have been a legend here, despite what people might have said of you playing second fiddle to Judge. Mickey Mantle had a Roger Maris. You could have been a part of something like that. But that's okay. I hope you have fun in Queens, and we'll see you. And to quote John Heyman, I can't even believe it. Can't even believe
it. We were discussing this before we went on air tonight. And I can't even claim that I came up with this, but like that whole thing went down Friday night. And I know all the big insider names kind of dropped that at once tonight. Apparently Heyman was first by like maybe a minute. But how good do you think that felt for John Heyman? After going through that Friday night, he came back and put that on McPherson's head top 48 hours later.
Yeah. I think, I'm sure it's like, I'm sure like, obviously like as a reporter like that of that stature too, like obviously you're not like supposed to be like a fan or, really, or at least like not publicly be a fan of a team. Like, I'm sure if John Heyman has a favorite baseball team, I'm sure he has it very, I'm sure that he roots for that team very, very privately, if even at all. Cause at this point for him, it's probably just such a job and a career that he probably doesn't even have any like when you're that deep into it, I feel like it's hard to like actually have like fandom attached to it, like of a certain team. But I'm sure that he gets a little bit of satisfaction out of like he had that whole interaction with Keith McPherson, who is a Yankees fan, and to then, to then be able to kind of dunk on him, number one, by breaking the news first, and number two, by breaking the news that he's going to the, that he's going to the other New York team, not the Yankees. I'm sure that there was a little part of him. He'll probably never say it publicly, but I'm sure there's a little part of him that has like a lot of satisfaction in that.
He was probably like, "Oh, I crashed out."
Yeah,
you don't even know the crash out that's about to happen in your world, pal.
Yeah, like get ready. Get ready to learn. Get ready to learn the late night show. That's where you're going. Get ready to learn. Put the fries in the bag.
I wasn't gonna go there. But
I don't even go that far, but fuck it.
Get ready to learn this. Well, actually, no. I was gonna say get ready to learn the Steve Summers shift, but I wouldn't insult the god Steve Summers like that.
No, that would be.
He doesn't deserve that comparison.
Steve Summers. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, that whole thing. I mean, honestly, with that whole thing, I kind of think Keith was just joking, and that Heyman just kind of he crashed out a little too hard. But I guess he's getting the last laugh now as the one who technically broke the Juan Soto news. But yeah, so I mean, I guess, we'll kind of look at it going, from a going forward perspective now. So obviously you land Juan Soto. Cohen's already proven that, we'll do it from the Mets perspective first, and then we can kind of shift to the Yankees perspective since we are the losers in this situation. But, from the Mets perspective, so, you got Juan Soto, you have now you have like a fucking three-headed monster at the top three of your lineup, much like we did. You got Lindor leading off, Soto, I assume, would be second, and then Vientos third. Well, there's really a lot of different things you could do, but I feel like that sounds like it probably makes the most sense.
Well, there are kind of ways that they could play this because, I mean, Brandon Nimmo did kind of have a very weird year, but
yeah.
When the Mets made that switch to putting Lindor in the leadoff, they put Nimmo in the 2-hole because he's the on-base guy, and that's become the thing now in baseball is you put your on-base guy second. That's a spot Soto's occupied in multiple places, and understandably so. I do wonder, and it's a good problem for Carlos Mendoza to have, is how do you want to play that now? Obviously, they're both elite on-base guys. Which guy would you rather have 2, and which would you rather have 3? I would think traditionally, the number 3 spot has been reserved for your best overall hitter. Do you put Soto there and kind of bank on the idea that, hey, Lindor and Nimmo are going to get on base? That's what they do. They're going to create things. And then we're going to have Soto in there to be able to move them around. And if he can't do that, well, we got Vientos right behind him. He's become an emerging power superstar before our eyes. I have to think at this point, if you've put this marker down, you're saying you have the window by signing Juan Soto that, hey, we have a window right now. And if you're going to do that.
The window has to start right away.
You can't take half measures anywhere else. You might as well bring Pete back because what's the point of having Soto if you don't have 2 boppers behind him in the lineup? What's the point of not having Sean Manaea in your rotation? Why not make that as strong as possible? You go out there, Manaea should be your 3, Senga should be your 2, and whether that means you get Corbin Burns or you go trade for someone, but you got to have a frontline ace to go with Senga and Manaea. That's your 1, 2, 3 right there. They got Clay Holmes on Friday, which I'm kind of warming up to that idea. Obviously, since all that's came around, David Peterson showed himself to be that guy last year. You now have a legitimate 5 to 6 man rotation, depending on how you want to deploy Frankie Montes. There's all kinds of ways that can go, and obviously we'll see because injuries are a thing. Right. But if you are willing to look at 2024 and go, that wasn't a one-off, that's going to be the start of our window. Well, why take half measures anywhere else? Like, you got to really go for this. You're hoping that for you are guaranteed at least the next 5 years of Juan Soto being in New York. By the end of that, Francisco Lindor is going to be, I believe, 36.
Yeah, so the
Pete
window
Alonso is
really
going to be around 35. Like, you
if
have this
so
right
there.
now.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think that, the window does have to start now, and I mean, for what he signed, for what he signed, getting paid, and what he signed for, like, what do you think the Mets need to get out of this, like, for it to be worth it? Like, is one singular championship, is that enough? I mean, I'm sure right now I'm sure a lot of Mets fans would say yes, just because of, like, how, just how starved for a championship the fan base is. And, I don't even mean that. I don't mean that in a
Oh,
disrespectful way. Like,
no, I get that.
we're starved too. It's been, 15 years isn't exactly yesterday. And obviously this news is obviously a pretty major blow to our hopes of getting back there. And we'll get into how they can maneuver around that shortly. But yeah, I would say, like, for the Mets, I mean, yeah, you made the statement this past year that this team is ready to compete now, that whatever schedule Steve Cohen and David Stearns had this team on, clearly they were ahead of that schedule. So now you make a move that, like, moves the needle even more in that direction. So, like, would you say is one championship enough, or do they need more for this to be like worth the investment?
I
Obviously, it's
can't
not
speak,
your money, but
right. I can't speak for the front office. I'm sure they're banking on multiple. I can only speak for myself, and I know I've said this on the show before. The last time this team won a world championship, I was a month old. You see the current state of the world. I've
yeah,
said it before. I've watched the Braves win multiple World Series in my lifetime. I've watched the Phillies win a World Series in my lifetime. I've watched the Nationals win one. I've seen the Marlins win two. To say nothing of the fact that I've watched the Yankees win several, including one at our expense. I just need one. I'm not asking for 10 in a row. If we get it, cool. I just want to see us hold up that trophy one time before the government just disbands sports.
yeah,
You know what I mean? I just need to see one. I need to. I've felt that with football. I have felt that with soccer. I need a World Series has always been my holy grail. To me, that means more than anything. It has died into me through my family because of my grandfather, my father, both my parents. My mom can tell me about how she was, in Catholic school in Brooklyn in the 60s, and the teachers were sneaking radios in so they could hear the end of the 69 World Series when they won the first one. My parents can tell me about how when I was a baby, like, they were sitting through the 86 World Series or the NLCS, the 16 inning game with Houston. Like, I want to have one of those as my own. Like, I've had some great seasons, but, like, to have it, like, my parents got to have 69 when they were kids. They got to see the miracle of that. When they were around my age, they had already had the Buckner game. They saw that.
yeah. So they had
Like, I want to have something like, you got to see A-Rod's run in 09, and I'm sure what you remember of the dynasty from the late 90s. Like, I want to have one of those. To me, if Juan Soto gets us one, all of this is worth it. All of it. Whether he's Albert Pujols on the back end of that deal, I do not care. If I get to have that one moment when I'm 80 years old and I could say, well, but we got 2025, I'm good.
Yeah, and you really don't have to worry about, like, the back end and the drop off of that contract for quite some time, especially
Right.
because like, players of this caliber, like, think of every, like, big free agent in, like, recent memory, like, before Soto, like, with the exception of, like, Harper and Machado, who both hit free agency around the same year, like Judge, Garrett Cole, and, like, all these other guys. It's like, it's no secret that the MLB loves to take their sweet ass time with manipulating service time, and you know most of these players don't get up to the big leagues till they're like 23, 24 years old, and
Oh
so
yeah.
those 6 years of service time, they're not hitting that and reaching the pinnacle of free agency where they can make them as much money as possible until they're already like 29 or 30 at that point. And they'll get like the 8, 9, 10-year deal, but the discussion at that point always is, okay, well, they're going to be on the wrong side of 30 very soon, and how long until the inevitable drop off, father time, and how long until like what can we do now to maximize the window so that when we're paying for like 40-year-old Albert Pujols level production, that this was all worth it. So you don't have because Soto was so good so early in his career, and like he was hitting home runs. He was hitting home runs off of Hall of Fame pitchers in the 2019 World Series before he could even legally drink a beer. Um, like because he was that good that early, you get this crazy blockbuster contract like a few years ahead of like the normal schedule. So
And
you
that
really
was
don't have
fun
to
of
worry
explaining
about
it
that
to
probably until after the opt-outs, the opt-out or opt-in happens
that was the fun
at
of
the
explaining it to
absolute
the
earliest.
that was the fun of explaining it to the casuals. Like even before tonight, they're like, man, why is there all this hubbub? And it's like, because guys this good don't hit free agency at 26. That just doesn't happen. Like,
Yeah.
More often than not, to kind of piggyback off of what you were saying, is when you see these mega deals like Pujols and even the second A-Rod contract to a lesser extent, a
Yeah.
lot of them are more along the lines of, if you're looking at it strictly from a financial thing, a lot of those deals end up being more along the lines of a lifetime achievement award than they are ideally. And this is going to sound bootlicky, but I don't intend for it that way. But when contracts are given out, it's supposed to come from the idea of, okay, we're paying you what we think you'll be for the tenure of this.
The
I think,
duration.
I
Yeah.
think the best
Obviously
version
that's
of
not
that,
how it works though.
the best versions of those would probably be Jeter's first deal with the Yankees, the 10-year he signed with them, the first contract that Miggy signed with the Tigers. That's about as good as you can get. Even the first contract that Trout signed with the Angels before they redid it in 19.
Or even A-Rod's like the contract he signed with Texas, which at the time was the biggest contract in like the history of sports. And I remember how big a deal that was back in like
252. That'll be
2002.
burned
Yeah,
into my
10
brain.
years, 252. And now it's like you get that to like a utility player now.
But it more often than not, it's those deals are more along of, you accomplished all these things, here's your reward.
Yeah,
And
like you went through, you earned your pinstripes, I guess you could say.
yeah, it's like
Although
the Pujols contract. It's like, man, you were awesome for 10 years. Here you go.
although Juan Soto today, he did whatever the opposite of earning your pinstripes is in my eyes.
He pulled a George Costanza is what he did.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I got a Costanza wallet right here.
I want to quote this from Will Salmon, who is the Mets beat writer for The Athletic. Juan Soto's bat works everywhere. His numbers at Citi Field, though, are something else. In 35 career games at Citi Field, 146 plate appearances, he has an 1175 OPS with 12 home runs, including 2 of the 5 longest home runs in the stadium's history.
Do you think there's any part of this that do you think there's any part of Juan Soto that did this because he wanted to come back to the NL East and haunt the Nationals? I mean, like he won there, obviously, but at the same time,
I mean, if he felt that strongly about staying there, I feel like something would have came out where it's like he was really hurt that this was the offer. He wanted to retire a National. He was so thankful that he had the opportunity, and winning that ring in 2019 meant everything to him, and he thought he was going to be a lifetime National. I feel like that story would have came out. So maybe he does. Maybe he does, and maybe he's looking at it like, okay, maybe down the road I'll go back or something. I don't know. But
Yeah.
I feel like if the plan all along was like he's just gonna own the Nationals the way he owned us with them. I don't know. I feel like that story would have been pushed, but
Yeah. Well,
it
who
doesn't
knows?
hurt. Doesn't hurt.
Well, who knows? I'm sure a lot's gonna come out over I'm sure a lot's gonna come out over these next few days, like a lot of like the behind the scenes stuff and stories and stuff, because you always get like the story about like you always get some sort of story out of this, like when a big contract like this is signed, like something behind the scenes, like when Judge signed his contract, and you had the whole arson Judge thing that happened that caused John Heyman to crash out on a radio show 2 years later. um
Hey, I mean, good thing he signed for 760. He's got to pay all these guys wearing 22, right?
Yep, yes, he does. There's a whole lot of 22s that he needs to buy on that roster. So he better get those gift baskets, get those Lambos ready. He better get ready to whatever fancy piece of jewelry these players' wives want. Yeah, he's good for it. He's good for it. Obviously, I'm sure he's also. I mean, he'll probably. I'm sure he'll probably have like a net worth of $1 billion when you factor in all the endorsements and all that stuff too.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm sure like a lot of stories will come out. Like when the whole Aaron Judge thing happened, you had the whole story where like it was Judge and it was Judge, it was Cashman, and then the Giants GM, and then Hal came in from the top row, was like, all right, listen, you want to be a Yankee? Like, I know you want to be a Yankee. How can we make this happen? And then he added on the 9th year, and he got that deal pushed across the finish line. So there's always like some sort of like nugget or story that comes out with these things. So something could come out, or I'm sure that there's gonna be like, I'm sure, even if it's manufactured, I'm sure there's gonna, and maybe I'm contributing to the manufacturing, but maybe there's gonna be like a revenge arc against the Nationals now, just because like that's how these things tend to go in sports, like with storylines and all that.
I mean, Chris, I'll try to hand you a win here, and I
don't
can
want to
only
be
laugh.
anything.
Well, hear me out. And I can only laugh at this, but so much because it kind of does affect me indirectly. But can you imagine for the last 2 weeks when they told you that the actual Boston Red Sox were going to pull this off? You remember when they kept telling you that?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, I remember all the Boston people with their sources, and I will say this. So it came down to the Yankees, the Mets, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, and the Dodgers. Those were like the 5 teams that were like truly in, it seemed like. And then it became just the Mets and the Yankees, which was I kind of felt like this was a 2-team race. Really from the beginning, I thought it was a 2-team race. Like even before free agency started, like during the season, I was like, yeah, like when it comes down to it, it's going to be between us and the Mets to get him. And like, we better just man up and do what it takes to get him. Which, I mean, despite our best efforts, we didn't do. But like, I will say that of all the other teams he could have gone to other than the Yankees, I probably would say that I hate it the least that he went to the Mets. Because I mean, if he went to the Dodgers, that would have just been like, man, like, come on. Like,
Yeah.
you can't, like, number one, you couldn't beat them, so you join them. Number two, like, really just, another player on the Dodgers super team. So, like, that would have sucked. The Red Sox and Blue Jays, I don't have to explain why that would have sucked. We would have had to see them like 12 times a year, plus potential playoff series. So, I mean, really, the Mets, if he wasn't going to stay with the Yankees, really the Mets was like probably the most ideal place I would have said he could go from my perspective. But, I'll say this. Is it safe to say that the Yankees-Mets Subway Series rivalry is officially back on both sides? Like, I don't think there was ever a period of time where Mets fans didn't have beef with the Yankees, but there was a period of time where I was like, all right, I'm cool with the Mets, like whatever. I'll root for them as long as it doesn't hinder me. But I think that's all. I think that's all out the window now. Like I think I can say that, like I think I can say now that like I officially don't fucking like the Mets again.
I think this is probably the hottest the rivalry's been since, I would say, 2002, when Clemens pitched in Shea for the first time since the World Series.
Yep. I was there.
Like even when we signed Beltran and Pedro, it was like, okay, we're trying to get to where you are. And then and in those ensuing years after that, it was like, okay, we're close, but we haven't gotten there. And then things cooled off. And even when we had our little window there in 15 and 16, it was, yeah, we're good, but the Yankees are kind of
the Yankees really rebuilding.
So it wasn't quite the same. And even these past few years, it's like we're trying to get there again. So It was like, to me, it was like you guys already were there. You guys already were contenders. You guys had been close in 17 and 19. So it was like we were trying to get to that level. We both got to the LCS this year. This was a player we both wanted. So yeah, probably I would say since at least that moment in 2002, this is as hot as it's ever been.
Yeah. Honestly, which is really, it couldn't be more perfect for the podcast that like both sides of this rivalry, no matter how manufactured it may be, that both sides are very invested, and there's definitely like a genuine dislike for the other side. Like I don't have to say all these like things to pretend that I hate the Mets. Like when we're playing the Mets now, I could just be like, remember what they took from you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I don't know, with like the whole situation, it's like trying to rationalize it's kind of difficult because like the initial reaction I think is like, oh, like fucking Hal Steinbrenner didn't get it done, and it's true, he didn't. And obviously at the end there, it seemed like he got a little unserious by adding the 16th year and still coming $5 million under what the Mets were offering. But it's like, at what point, because I really do think Cohen would have gone as far as he needed to. I could have seen him going to 800, maybe 850, maybe even more than that, depending like if the Yankees or someone else like kept pushing it. Like I do think that like he would have gotten into like close to like $1 billion territory even. Like I don't think Cohen was going to be denied, but it's like at what point as a Yankee fan can you say like, all right, like I don't really blame you for not going that far. Like I don't really blame you for backing out at a certain point. Like,
well,
I don't know if we were there yet. I truly don't know if I was there yet. Like oh, you offered him 760. He took a Mets for 765. Like, you couldn't just keep it at 15 years and offer an extra $5 to $10 million. Like you couldn't just do that. You went this far anyway. But like if it gets to like 800 million or above, it's like, can I really blame Hal Steinbrenner at that point if he doesn't want to go that far? Especially if he's just like, okay, like I'm signing Juan Soto, I'll drop the 800 million, but don't expect another thing from me like this offseason.
Well, I would say I think we did briefly touch on this on a past episode, but I think the only time where the Yankees had someone get to free agency that they had an interest in keeping and didn't was Robinson Cano. And for the time, which is crazy to think that it's just over 10 years ago, Seattle hit a number where the Yankees were like, we're good. I don't know how much you remember of that time and what was being discussed, but I mean, I feel like that's the only frame of reference that we can really go on right now for the Yankees.
Yeah.
And even then, that's a whole different thing where it was, okay, the Mariners aren't a playoff team at the moment, and we only see them a handful of times a year. And even if he signs for them, okay, they still have other things to fix. That doesn't instantly put them on footing with us. You guys had, I think you guys had just been at an ALCS. They hadn't been to the playoffs in 12 years at that point. so you guys could rationalize it like, okay, cool, you got him. You still got to fix this, this, and this. So even that's not quite the same. But like, do you remember how that went at the time?
I very vaguely I do remember, like, I don't think I was as plugged into like it as I necessarily was like this situation or some of the more recent free agents. I definitely don't remember it as well. One distinct memory I have of that whole saga, really like the end of the saga, was my good friend Paul, who I used to do my old baseball podcast, Where the Pitch Is At, with. My friend Paul and my friend Robbie. But my friend Paul, we used to hang out like at his at his house or like his family's house like all the time back in that time period. Like it pretty much, you'd be like, you know what, like you go about your day, you go to work, you go to school, whatever you had to do. But when you were done being an adult, we go to Paul's and we'd hang out. And one distinct thing I remember is that he had like a Robinson Cano. It was like a card or like a poster or something. But I just remember he had this like Robinson Cano card. And then I remember after after Cano signed with the Mariners, he just put like a knife through it. And like I just remember always seeing the like Cano card like on his wall with like the knife in it. And that's my like distinct like outlying memory of that whole Cano signing with the Seattle Mariners saga.
This is also like, I've never said that I'm completely stable. I've said that on this show.
Yeah.
These are the little things that I think about every now and again. It's like, man, just go back to that time and explain what's about to happen. Juan Soto was born in October of 1998. I was in 6th grade. And I just would love to be able to go back right now to 6th grade me and be like go to October 1998, that day, and be
the greatest baseball player, one of the greatest baseball players of your adult generation is being born right now, and he's going to sign a 15-year deal with your team, and you're going to outbid the New York Yankees for him.
Yeah, like
you would have told whoever told you that, like, to give you whatever drugs he was smoking.
Like, there's someone being born right now. Give it a quarter century. The feeling of joy that you are going to have is unmatched. I promise you. Like, all right, what?
What do you mean?
Piazza didn't lead us to 3 World Series. What's happening? Don't worry about that. Trust me. That baby being born in the Dominican Republic right now.
He's your guy.
He will be through the roof. I promise you.
Well,
like, I think about little things like that where it's just like, this guy went here in the draft, or because this injury happened or this sequence happened, things transpired the way they do. Little things like that you're never like, huh. Imagine if that,
Yeah, I mean, shit. Maybe there's a baby being born right now that's going to be the next great Yankee when I'm like 60 years old.
And you're going to be like, man, in 2024, I was going through it.
I was crashing out in December 2024. Yeah. Little did I know that Glenn Allen Mixon was born today. He would sign.
We needed someone to counteract Mike Truck.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
hopefully, the good news, this goes back to what I said before. Since the Red Sox didn't spend all that money on Juan Soto, that means the Fenway Sports Group will now use that money that they didn't use on Juan Soto, and they can use that for Liverpool to re-sign Mo Salah, Virgil van Dijk, and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Right, FSG? You're going to do that, right?
Yeah, sure.
Right?
I would, you would think either that or, maybe they're, maybe they're just trying to figure out how they're going to fix the Penguins. I don't know what they're doing.
They don't need that.
Yeah, they really don't. Fuck them.
It's bad because those are Liverpool's 3 best players. They're all about to enter free agency. And even Liverpool fans who don't know anything else about baseball are like, yeah, Google Mookie Betts. Look what FSG do. And I'm like, oh, crap. We really have a problem.
Like, oh, these fucking Red Sox and their Juan Soto. So do you think that the Liverpool faithful are reacting positively to Juan Soto not signing with the Red Sox because less of FSG's money's tied up?
Actually, the more that I think about it, they would probably be like, "Oh, you didn't get the guy you wanted in free agency. Welcome to our world." We signed one guy over the summer, one, and it was on the last day of free agency. Like, get in line.
Well, we did not sign one guy today, and I think even if we were on the winning side of this, I think there still would be a sense of urgency that we have to get more done. And applying your logic to the Yankees about the Fenway Sports Group, I think you could apply that. I think you could apply that logic to the Yankees. All right, Hal, you showed us how much money you were willing to spend to keep Juan Soto, because you knew that that was someone that you needed. If you wanted to field, you knew that you would have to spend that type of money if you wanted to field a championship level roster again in 2025.
You broke the war chest out.
So you fell short of Juan Soto, Hal, but you played your hand. So that $765 million that you were apparently ready to spend, I really hope you are ready to spend that elsewhere, because now that you missed out on Soto,
if I may paraphrase Luis Severino, you have one good hitter.
Yes. Well, we have two good hitters.
Okay.
At the time when he said that, Giancarlo was hurt. So like the two good hitters at the time were Judge and Soto. Giancarlo was hurt. So we have two good hitters again, maybe 1.5 good hitters if you want to assume that Giancarlo is going to miss some time due to some sort of injury, perhaps from carrying the whole team every October.
Listen, you said it, not me.
Nonetheless,
but to your point, and because this was something we were talking about last show in terms of, okay, well, if which one of our teams doesn't do it, what's move?
Plan B? Yeah.
And I went from the angle of, okay, well, if you were willing to do that and you were willing to go this far, well, these other things still need to be addressed, and clearly you were willing to do it. So let's see it. The war chest is out. Let's go fix the other stuff.
Yeah. So for me, like I would say, could the Yankees and Mets get into another bidding war over Pete Alonso? And how far might that go if that were to happen? Because I mean, like, are the Mets just like I don't think Steve Cohen's like done. No. After that, I don't think he's gonna be like, hey guys, I spent the $800 million. I gave you what you wanted. Now leave me alone. I think he realizes that the Mets probably still have some pieces they need to add. Now, do they maybe not see Pete Alonso as big of a need because they have Mark Vientos who could play first, and perhaps a move to first base is in the future of Juan Soto's career. Saying
that if you get Soto, that would be more likely that Pete stays. I like maybe Pete would be willing to take a little less, which salute. Like if he's like, okay, I'll take 110 instead of 150. Cool. Good with that.
Well, I mean, I would think Pete Alonso, I think obviously if he stays with the Mets, what he's capable of doing there. But I do think he would be a great fit for the Yankees. We have a glaring hole at first base, and that's nothing new. It's been a glaring hole, even before like this past year. It's been a glaring hole. Ben Rice provided some nice moments, but you're not going into 2025 with Ben Rice being like your primary first baseman.
Some people in the Discord clearly do.
Am I missing something?
Jim in there was one of his coping skills was I'd rather have Ben Arroyos. So
he said he'd rather have Ben Rice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not put those words in his mouth. He willingly typed that out.
Listen, I'm coping. He said he was saying he'd rather have Ben Rice than Pete Alonso.
Oh well, So I think Case said, well, when you get Pete, we'll call it even. And Jim responded with, I'd rather have Ben Rice. So
I love Jim, but that's crazy. That's a crazy thing to say. I'm sorry. No.
I also want to point out, and this has nothing to do with where Juan Soto played or any of that, but someone did bring this up. January 24th, 2019, Jeff Wilpon said this in response to Harper and Machado still being available. Quote, I don't know how many teams have two $30 million players. We deserve this.
No, you do. You do.
In 6 years, we went from that to this.
You do. It sucks that it's like at our expense. Which would we even really feel like it's at our expense if we didn't have him for the 1 year rental? But yeah, no, I mean, when you go from that type of owner to this, like, you know, you can wholeheartedly say, like, all right, like, times are changing, and, you know, like, the fans definitely deserve that type of turning of the tide, because that's just like an ignorant thing to say, especially because it's like, I feel like most, you know, he said that when did he say that? That
in
was
January of 2019.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Machado and Harper were still available.
So he said that 5 years ago. So he effectively took himself out of the race a month before it ended, number one. Number two, he said something that, you know, I don't even think you have to say in hindsight it looks asinine. It probably looked asinine when he said it, because even then, it's like in 2019, 2018, like even during that time, most teams that were, you know, most teams that were winning World Series or getting to the World Series or were seriously competing or serious contenders for the World Series had multiple $30 million players. So that's just a crazy thing to say. But yeah, I could definitely see another Pete Alonso bidding war come to fruition. There's been some Garrett Crochet chatter that's been heating up. I know you mentioned him as a target for, you know, as a potential target for the Mets. I think you said, you know, he's someone the Mets should target regardless of whether or not they sign Soto. You know, and I feel the same way about him as the Yankees. And supposedly the Yankees are in on Crochet, and the report that I'm seeing is that a trade is getting closer and could happen at the winter meetings. So it does kind of feel like the pitching market is like what's about to heat up. Like, I feel like Crochet and like Burns could be like the next dominoes to fall. I also recall,
as far as if the Yankees were going to do a deal for Crochet, if there have been names linked as far as what they'd be willing to do.
Oh, like as far as what they'd be willing to give up.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I don't know. I just, you know, that thing. I think I sent it to you on. I think I sent it to you on either Twitter or Instagram. I forget which one. I think it was an Instagram post I sent.
Yeah.
It was like the Yankees. I think the Red Sox, and I forget who else.
Cincinnati.
Yeah, the Yankees, Red Sox, and Reds were like the three teams that were, and I think also the Phillies, Padres. I mean, it does say the Yankees. Yeah, it says Yankees, Dodgers, Mets, Orioles, Phillies, Padres, and Red Sox have all been linked to Crochet. And then it said that, you know, that I think the thing I sent you said that. Was that like the Reds are a real threat along with the Yankees and Red Sox being in, and that the other teams were kind of perceived to be more on the outside.
The Red Sox were on the periphery more than anything, not as being aggressive.
Yeah, the Red Sox are the there if you got World Series rings for due diligences, the Red Sox might be competing you know, with the Yankees for
hang the banner.
Yeah. Yeah, the due diligence banner from 2020 to 2025 every year.
I will say I do appreciate, because I do see him on the timeline occasionally, as Liam Fennessy, and it's always something like that where it says the Red Sox are just on the periphery of this point, and they just Photoshop one of the times that they unfurled the banner along the monster. It's just 2024 on the periphery of Garrett Crochet. Like,
That's pretty
if
good.
you're willing to laugh at yourself like that, I can respect that.
Yeah,
So,
2024 finalists for Juan Soto. I mean,
had discussion.
I think I'd fucking rather hang an NBA Cup banner than that bullshit. Let's go Knicks.
Not that we got something to say about it.
You had your
Actually,
chance.
we don't. We do not have anything to say.
You had your chance to say something about it a few nights ago, and I think you
we really don't now.
Barely let out a whimper.
No, and it's worse since then. But Met fans used to have photoshops like that. It would be the banners along.
Oh yeah. 2020 was it 21? Which year was everyone really good friends? Was that 21 or 22?
It was like Steve Cohen got mad because Steve and Matt said, it was 2021. Steve and Matt said no because then we went on the spending spree after that.
Yeah, 2021 was Steve and Matt said no. I think 2022 was everyone was great friends. The
running joke for the longest time was Jeff Wilpon used to always say, we just want to play meaningful games in September. So anytime we were like kind of in it going into September, we would just do that too. So
yeah, I remember Joe Douglas saying the goal was to play meaningful games in December 2 years ago, and then they actually played some meaningful games in December 2 years ago and have since gotten infinitely worse. But that's another podcast for another day.
But you see this now, Chris. There is light. it can get better. I promise you. I promise.
Yeah, we'll see. Some, I guess. But even then, it's like, is some like billionaire owner, like, is it Gary Vee gonna come in and be like, I'm gonna spend money on this team like it's no object? Because there's a salary cap. I think what makes the Mets situation so interesting was this guy just came in and was like, yeah, I'll spend money. Like, yeah, I'll outbid the Yankees for top tier talent. That's all. Those are things I'm willing to do. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't know how much that exists in other sports as far as like
Mr. Bezos on the line.
Salary cap.
I would call Jeff Bezos. Do what you got to do. Stage a coup.
I mean, there have been reports on that.
Hostile takeover.
There have been reports on that Bezos wants to like own an NFL team, and he's like supposedly the favorite, the most likely to be like the next owner of the New York Jets. But who knows if or when that'll ever happen. But yeah, back to baseball. But yeah, no, I think Yankees definitely got to get aggressive on the on the primary, secondary, tertiary market now that Soto's gone. I would say, if you want to put that $765 million to use and spread it over a few good players, I feel like you could probably get a Pete Alonso, Corbin Burns, maybe a Anthony Santander, and I think before the season even like ended or before the offseason really started, I was seeing a lot of reports that the Yankees were going to be like very active in the reliever market, which does make sense considering like they really had no interest in keeping Clay Holmes, it doesn't seem. So obviously they're down a bullpen arm. Luke Weaver was a revelation this year. I don't know if they see him as like, their franchise closer of the future. So I think that, going big game hunting and, maybe hitting up the cash poor Padres again, being like, hey, remember how we rented Juan Soto from you? How about you trade us Tanner Scott? And you know what? While you're at it, we'll take Michael King back too.
But I do think you guys can kind of operate from the same idea that I talked about before, that I said, business should not be done on our end.
Right.
I do think, if this means something to the people at the very top, you just made the World Series. You won. How many games you win in the regular season? 95, 96?
Yeah, I believe so. We won 94 games, I believe.
So you're at 94, 95. I forget how many you won in 20.
Yeah, we won 94 games, and I mean the Dodgers won 98. And only the Phillies and Dodgers won 95 or more games. So like, it literally like everyone, we were like right there.
Yeah, you get like you were in the World Series. I think if you're in the copium stage, you go, hey, a couple things go differently. We're right there. You
Oh
have
yeah,
you
I don't
have
even
Judge.
think it's even copium to say that that like a couple of those games could have easily gone differently, and the series could have easily been 3-2 Yankees going back to LA. I don't think that's even copium to say. I think that that's kind of just true. Obviously, it didn't happen, but I don't think it's copium to say that.
And you have Judge at his peak right now. You have Garrett Cole, who's probably going to be in this phase of his career for another 3 to 4 years, where he's Cy
Still
Young
very
quality
good,
if
but
he's healthy.
yeah, still very good. But like that the decline is coming.
So you have this window. I mean, and Judge is what, 32? So you really
Yeah,
have these next 3 to 4 years with these two guys being the forefront of your team, and you already have proof on
yeah,
your books that Judges won an MVP in your uniform. Cole won the Cy Young
multiple.
last year in your uniform. So you have those results by you to know that these guys are good right now. Our window is right now. Let's go try to make the most of this before we have to start all over again. So
Exactly.
yeah, you're this close. Go for it.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, you know, like, at a time like this, like Spencer Jones comes to mind, and like, how far along is he in his development, and do they feel that he could be ready and that he could, do they feel that he's someone who could be ready, or someone that could like really play a meaningful role on this team in 2025? Like, that's a question I have. So, obviously I hope that they're not just counting on, obviously your pipeline and your homegrown talent is extremely important. That's like the backbone of any good team. You have to have homegrown talent. You can't just you can't just, contrary to popular belief, you can't just throw money at free agents and just expect to win. You have to have a mix of homegrown talent in there. So like I do wonder if like where he is at in his development, if he's someone that, if he's someone that's going to be on the opening day roster, to try and fill the void in the outfield. Obviously I think Santander is like a pretty obvious pivot. I think that would be a no-brainer. So I mean, there's a lot that, there's many ways to bake a cake, and there's a lot that can still be done. So, as much as from a Yankee fan perspective, as much as this does suck, and as much as this is like, a pretty unprecedented time, getting outbid by the Mets for, one of the best baseball players in the world. I would say that not all hope is lost, and I think that I think I made a mistake on the last podcast. I think I said that the Dodgers had signed Teoscar Hernandez, which that was just a mistake on my part. They did not sign him. He's still out there, so he's someone that could potentially be had. I kind of think he'll end up back in LA, because it seems like LA has been in the business of just retaining their own. They also added Michael Conforto. I think that happened either right before or right after the Soto news. So
Right before.
it was right before. Yeah, because I remember seeing that and being like, and I remember seeing that and like kind of letting out a bit of a chuckle. I was like, oh, this is the MLB news we've all been waiting for.
Hey, we don't have to do Michael Conforto like that. That's my guy.
No, it's no disrespect to him, but
Also,
there is something funny about it being Michael Conforto, though, too.
although I fear what the Dodgers lab will turn him into. I mean, we saw what they did for Tommy Edman, and Michael Conforto was already a better hitter than Tommy Edman was when he got to LA. So that
Yeah,
puts a shiver down my spine.
yeah,
Also, speaking of Plan Bs, Willie Adames is off the board for both of us as he signed with the Giants. So
yep, yeah, he's
good move
gone.
by them.
Yeah, I like that move for the Giants. Definitely makes sense for them. Like honestly, considering what he got, I mean, it seems like a pretty team friendly deal. Like it
No,
was
that's very reasonable.
7,184. Obviously he's not he's not going to be getting no $765 million, but I'd say for him 7,184, I would have went a little higher than that. I
No,
think I would.
I thought he was going to get 200. To be
Yeah,
honest,
I would have went up to like 200, maybe 220 if shit got real crazy, and especially if you do, especially knowing what we know now, because I almost wonder if people like I almost wonder if like players that signed before Soto
oh yeah,
made the decision, like I wonder if they kind of screwed themselves out of money by not waiting out Soto.
that was my next thing. Is Willie Adames sitting around tonight going, damn,
Man, I
I fucked up.
fumbled. Yeah, no, it's quite possible. But
Because the panic over these next couple of days, like it'll be interesting to see what not just you guys, but the Red Sox pivot, what the Blue Jays pivot is.
oh yeah.
I mean, I think there was a lot of talk that it was, the Dodgers say they want him, but they're not really pressing for it. To me, I think there's no
I don't
option
think
that
the
the
Dodgers
Dodgers
were
would look
ever.
at and say pass. I refuse to believe that. So
Yeah, I don't think the Dodgers were ever like super duper serious about getting Juan Soto. I think they were just in it because like they had to be in it. From a certain, they had to be in it to a certain extent, right? Because it's like, all right, like you're the team that's in on every single free agent. You're just not going to be on a Juan Soto. Like no one's really expecting you to sign him, but you at least got to be in the conversation till like almost the very end, like just to upkeep the the
they're the boogeyman.
perception and the image for
Yeah,
it's for the culture.
they're the baseball boogeyman. It's like, all right, hurry up, you better get this done before the Dodgers get any ideas about
Exactly.
this.
Yeah. Real quick before we end, so we got two Hall of Famers announced today.
I
Uh,
did see that.
Dick Allen and Dave Parker. Obviously these are both people, obviously these are both guys who kind of played before our time, but any thoughts on either of them and they're getting into the Hall of Fame?
I know a little bit more about Dave Parker solely because he's a little closer to my time than Dick Allen was. Everything I've ever heard about Dick Allen was, even from the people of the era, was, yeah, unbelievable hitter, great player, all of that. What an asshole! Like, and that was solely the reason. It was like, yeah, baseball resume, yeah, he should be in. Everybody hated him.
Yeah, I
And
guess
it's like, and then you dig
he
a
lived
little
up to
bit,
the
you're like,
billing of his name.
well, but then you dig a little bit in his story, and it goes, yeah, I get it. But you look at his resume: 7-time All-Star, AL MVP, a Rookie of the Year, led the league in home runs twice in the 70s, and that's, that was an era with some heavy hitters. He was playing in the AL with Reggie Jackson at the time, with Carl Yastrzemski and a lot of them. I kind of deserves to be in there. I know Dave Parker does. I mean, an
100%.
all-time great
Yeah,
power
Dave
bat,
Parker.
all-time great arm.
Yeah, Dave Parker's a no-brainer.
And I'm happy, especially because MLB Network did a pretty good doc on him a few years back. I forget. I don't necessarily. I don't want to speak. I mean, I don't want to be out of turn on this. I believe he has Parkinson's. I'm pulling that up right now. Yes, he does. He's had Parkinson's for about a decade, but luckily, he lived long enough to like truly get his flowers, because this is as good as it can be. And
Yeah.
If everything's good, his health will hold him long enough that he gets to go to Cooperstown next summer and have that. 7-time All-Star, 2 World Series a decade apart, NL MVP, 3 Gold Gloves, 3 Silver Sluggers, 2 batting titles, an RBI leader. He's in the Hall of Fame of 2 different teams. Absolutely. And thankfully he's here to see it. I know Dick Allen passed in 2020. Dave Parker, luckily, will get to see the fruits of his career.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. No. Yeah. Knock on wood. Yeah. He'll be able to see. He'll be able to have that moment to commemorate his career in Cooperstown this summer too. So congratulations to both of them. And looking at their numbers and their accolades, I would say like Dick Allen probably should get in. That's probably deserved. I think that we need to get to a point as a society where baseball writers stop holding like your personality against you as a way to like keep you out of the Hall of Fame. Now, if
Yeah.
if you're like if you did stuff like what Pete Rose did, like I can understand it.
Right.
But if it's just like, all right, like if you're just an asshole, but you're still a great ball player, like I don't know, gotta let that shit go. But yeah,
It's like you understand who Dick Allen is and when he grew up and, had to play in the minor leagues in the South in the early 60s. Yeah. Not very trusting of people and kind of abrasive.
Rightfully so, probably.
I get it.
Yeah, and if you look at his career and his numbers and what he accomplished, and then you look at and you put him in the Hall of Fame, I think that to then put Dave Parker in the Hall of Fame is like an absolute no-brainer because he also, both of them have over 40 career WAR, and they both hit like close, Dick Allen hit 351 home runs. Dave Parker was, right on the cusp of 350. He finished his career with 339. So, and they both played in times where there were definitely mashers, and obviously the PEDs were not as prominent at that time either. Although towards the end, I guess towards the end of Dave Parker's career, they were starting to become more of a thing. But at that point, I think that he was kind of past the point of that being something that he would do or consider doing. So I don't think you really got to worry about that. But
and with Dave Parker, it's the bat is what's always going to attract fans. I mean, MLB's gotten better about what they make available on YouTube, at least in the past 10 years. You can find a reel of some of Dave Parker's best throws. And I mean, I would put him up there with Vlad, with Jose Guillen, Rick, like whoever's the best outfield arms we've seen in our lifetimes. Dave Parker is right there with them.
Yeah, no, it's very true. So, both well deserved on both counts. And, I'm sure that's just the beginning of like what we're going to see as far as who gets into the Hall of Fame, because those guys were voted in by the committee, but all the writers, that's the classic era committee, but all the writers still are going to be, making their votes. And, we'll get like we'll get the full lineup of Hall of Famers in January. And, maybe we'll do an episode here in the future. Maybe we'll cast our own Hall of Fame ballots based on what the ballots are now. I'm just thinking out loud. But, I think that's going to pretty much do it for this emergency podcast of Juan Soto signing with the Mets. So congratulations to Dick Allen and Dave Parker. Congratulations to the Mets and their fans. And Yankees, it's time to Plan B goes into effect now. There's no time to wallow in this or be mopey about it. Losing Juan Soto, it sucks, but it is what it is, and you got to shift gears now.
Like we said, the window's still open. You still have a top 100%. 5 player in the sport. You've got a top 5 pitcher. And there's no reason. I mean, and you've been on the doorstep the past couple of years. I mean, I know 23 wasn't what it was, but you were there in 22. So there's, this doesn't mean you have to hit reset on all of it.
No, not at all. And I mean, they were knocking on the door in 2019. 2020, the COVID year was very weird, and some might say fake, but they were in Game 5 of the ALDS that year. So who knows what would have happened if Aroldis Chapman didn't have one of his classic meltdowns. And shouts, Boston, have fun with that, enjoy.
Yeah, that's that's gonna be comedy one way or the other.
I'm really looking forward to the first picture of Aroldis Chapman smiling in a Red Sox uniform after someone hits a ball 300 feet over the monster. That's gonna hit like that good. So I'm looking forward to that, especially at a time like this where I am not as where things are not hitting like that good for me. But
I saw someone say this. Is he going to be the first person to be booed on opening day before ever playing for the team?
That'd be hysterical.
It's on the table.
It's definitely not off the table, and that'll definitely be something to watch out for come opening day. But yeah, that'll do it for this episode. So we'll let Jerry go and continue to pop the champagne and do whatever he's doing to celebrate this momentous occasion for himself and this baseball team. And
I'm gonna walk into work tomorrow and not know where I am.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Yeah, we really appreciate you. We really appreciate you, taking time from the moon to come talk to us. I will go, I'll go crash out now. I'll go do my not safe for YouTube crashing out. Don't worry, I'll be alive tomorrow, God willing. But
I'll be doing some things not safe for YouTube. I won't say what they are.
Yeah. It's either way, it's not safe for YouTube hours. So we're gonna get out of here. But thank you all for tuning in. To the Mets fans out there, congrats, and to the Yankees fans out there, we'll get through this together. Peace.